What's up, guys? EnderUnknown here, and I have a question for you. Have you ever wanted to code or make a video game? Well, if you have, this is the right video for you, because I'm going to be doing a in-depth series on game development, starting with the most basic game, the text-based adventure. So this is a tutorial meant for intermediate to just learning, probably more so just learning, but probably knows a little bit of code, or at least the thought process of logic behind code. So anyways, let's get started. I am in Microsoft's Visual Studio. I will add a link in the description for downloads. So you're going to want to go download Visual Studio and then make a directory for yourself to work in it, like a folder. So we're going to start by pressing File, then going to New, Project, Console App. We're going to name it, and it is going to be called, well, this would be your name, so I'm just going to call it Ender's Dungeon. Then, where you'd like to put it, we are going to put this in our, I have a text-based adventure game tutorial folder that we are going to put our project in. So when you're done with all that, you just press OK, and it will create a project for us. Okay, so this is our program. Yeah, I need to probably explain this on a you have no idea what coding is standpoint, or you have very limited knowledge. Class file is what all of your code is going to be in, for the most part. It's kind of like the basic, it's like a text file for code, almost. Just it's a lot more special and interesting than that. Static void main string args is the starting point for code. So when you run the program, this is what's going to happen. All the stuff in this, in between these curly brackets. Everything in code has to be, so, I don't know how to put this, but the curly brackets have to match. For every curly bracket, there needs to be a curly bracket to close it. So, open and then close, and then everything inside this namespace Ender's Dungeon is in there. So if we just changed our stuff to outside here, that's not going to work. Now, let's get started with some actual coding. So we're going to start by making a method called start, or function. So we're just going to go down and type in static void start. And then parentheses, there we go. Okay, I was describing curly brackets. Anyways, inside of the parentheses here is where your some of your variables go for this method, but start's not going to need any. So we just add a left curly bracket and press enter. So everything in this static void start will happen separate of what's happening up in the main string args. So this is how we're going to start our game and only have it start once. This is kind of purely organizational. It doesn't really matter as much, but, I like being organized. So we are going to start with a basic command called console. So console, and then what do we want the console to do? We want it to write a line, and we can put whatever we want in here. So we're just going to put Ender's Dungeon. And it has to be, since it's a string, we have to place it in these quotation marks. Or it could be a variable, in which we don't need to put it in the quotation marks, but I'll get into that later. Variables and stuff. So, yeah, Ender's Dungeon, exclamation mark, sure. So, yeah, so we have this going, and then it's going to display that. Then we probably want to ask it for our characters, or ask the game to ask for our character's name. So we're going to do right line name, or actually, what is your name sounds kind of creepy. So we're just going to put name. And then the space is important. Or wait, no, we're not doing it. The space is not important for this. It's important for stuff we're going to be doing later. Then we have to do console.readLine. And this is going to wait for a response in our console. And we also want to save this to a location. But we're going to do that in a second. So I will be... Well, let's run this. I'll be right back when this runs. Okay, that was stupid of me. I forgot to put our start method in the main string arg, so nothing happened when I ran it. And I also did not show you guys how to run if you're new to Visual Studio. So you just go click up on this green arrow or start button. Okay, as you can see, it wrote Ender's Dungeon and then our name right there, and then if we were to type anything in, the console would close because we don't have any more code. So let's get back to the editor and continue working. Okay, the next thing we're going to have to do is make our player class. So we're going to right click on Ender's Dungeon, add new item, and we're going to name it player down at the bottom here. It's going to be a class file, so click on class and then add. So under player we're going to need a couple of variables. We're going to want a public string called name. We're going to want a public integer or int called coins, a public int called health, public int called damage, and probably a public int called, what else do we need? I don't know, health, damage, oh yeah, armor value. And that's probably, oh, and one more, public int called potions. We're going to make some defaults for this, so coins are going to be defaulted to 0, health is going to be defaulted to 10, damage is going to be defaulted to 1, armor value is going to be defaulted to 0, and potions are going to be defaulted to 5. Let's go back into our program. We're going to need to make a reference to our player file over here. So we just need to do public static player current player equals new player, and that is just going to create a new instance of the player that we're going to use temporarily. So yeah, we are going to make this line down here set our player's health. So we're going to want to do current player dot name is going to be equal to whatever we get out of this console line. Then the next, so we're going to want to say some lines of text, I guess. Let me think. We're going to want to, that would be a cool intro. Okay. So console dot write line. Let's do some storytelling. So you awake in a cold stone dark room. You feel dazed and are having trouble remembering. We're going to do a new line here. I think I can just do that by... I know I'm pretty sure there's a command for it. Pretty sure it's... So, okay, we're just going to write a new console.writeLine. This is better for organization anyways. Trouble remembering anything out your past. All you are able... Oh, no, that doesn't sound good. You remember, or you know your name is... We're going to keep a space there, add a plus, and then we're going to do current player.name. And remember to get these semicolons on the back of, like, almost all these lines. Need them. The only ones that don't are, like, functions. So, yeah, then this should ask your name, and then... So some players are just going to press enter right away, and they're not going to have a name. So we're going to add a little clever workaround to this. So I think we're going to make this a new line. So Control X, and then, oops, going to need a okay, yeah, set it up like that. Quotation, parenthesis, right parenthesis, and then semicolon. We're going to add another console right line, and then I did copy that, I believe. So we're going to want an if statement. If the current player.name is equal to, when you use two equals, that means you're comparing things. If you use a single equals, that means you're setting something to be equal to the value that you give it. So we want to compare the player's name to a string, and the string is just not going to have anything in it. So that's if a player pressed enter immediately. So if that is true, we are going to want to give them a different message, else this message over here is going to be fine. And you do not need the curly, the special curly braces on these. If you indent, well, the indentation doesn't really matter. If there's only one line of code after a if statement or else statement, you are able to do a fancy little, you don't have to make the curly braces, which is really nice. So we're going to do console.writeLine. You're having trouble remembering anything about your past. So you know what your name, or you know your name is blank, and then this one, you can't even remember your own name, ... There we go. So that's just kind of, if players are like, oh, I'm going to outsmart the system and have the name, say, blank, then we're just going to have them forget their name. So, yeah. Okay, after that, I think we're going to go test this code to make sure everything is. Another important thing that, of course, I forgot to do is we're going to need a console.read key. And this is just kind of like, it's going to wait till a key's pressed to pass this point. So, yeah, and then we're just going to go click start, and I will. Okay, so I just ran the game here, and we're going to type in our name, EnderUnknown, enter. You awake in a cold stone dark room. You feel dazed and are having trouble remembering anything about your past. You know your name is EnderUnknown, and then when I press a key, it's going to shut my console, because that means all the code's been completed. I'll see you back in the editor, and we'll continue from there. Okay, just a little more organizational stuff. After we read the line here, or the name, and we set the player's official name in the code to equal what the console is, we are going to want to press enter and then do console.clear, and that's just going to clear the console. Yeah, and then we're going to want to do the same down here. We have one more storytelling element, and then we'll work on some of the other stuff, the more interesting stuff. So console clear, and then console dot write line. This is more story. You grope around in the darkness till you find a door handle. Let's see, what would be good? Yeah, I guess we'll do, you feel some resistance as, and then the next line will be console dot write line. So you feel some resistance as you turn the door or the handle, but the rusty lock breaks with little effort. You see your captor. Another line here. See your captor standing with his back to you outside the door. And then that will be our encounter. So we're going to have the first encounter be rigged, but we're going to make an encounter manager by just going over here on the left, adding a new item called encounters, and it is going to have the class file. Add encounters is going to be another file that we're going to be using quite frequently to make probably all of our encounters, and we're going to have probably 3 parts to it. So if you did not know, 2 slashes, forward slashes, are equal to the that's a comment, so the code will skip over it. So we're going to have encounter tools, and actually that one's probably going to go on the bottom. Encounters, then maybe you don't need a third one. We'll see. I think I had encounter utils. I made a practice one of these a little while ago. I don't know. We'll leave that out until we need it. Okay, so yeah, at the top we're gonna. Yeah, no, there was a encounter generic. So tools are gonna help with our encounters. Generic's gonna contain some generic methods, and encounters will be all of our encounters. So we're gonna start by making a counter. It's gonna be a public static. We're just gonna call it first encounter. And public static void. Void is important. That means this method or function is not going to return a variable. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. I had to go take care of something. So let's get back to our encounter here. The first encounter is going to have some text, because we're going to be fighting the person's captor, which is going to be a human rogue. So we're going to just say, what did we end with? Outside his back to the door. Okay. How about you throw open the door, charging toward your captor, and you throw open the door, you throw open the door, and grab a rusty metal sword, while charging towards your captor. There we go. Dot right line. Let's see, what else did he turns, and he turns. There, that sounds good. Okay, so then we're going to do a read key, which just means we're going to wait for them to press a button. Then we're going to go into combat. So let's start by making the combat. Combat's going to be under our encounter tools. We're just going to call it public static void combat. Okay, so in combat, this is where we're going to use the variables in the function. So we're going to want a a bool called random. So this is just going to ask if the combat is a random creature or if it's a specialized creature. So like for this encounter, it's going to be a human rogue. And then if it isn't random, then we're also going to want to ask for a string called its name, and then a integer called power, an integer called health. So we're just going to do a quick if-then statement. So if it is random, and if it is not random. If it's not random, we're going to have some variables up at the top. We're going to have a string called n, and that's just going to equal blank there. We're going to have a integer called power, or p. That's also going to be just 0. We're going to have an integer called h, which will be health. That'll be 0. We'll deal with random in a minute. We're going to have a lot of variables that we're just going to substitute with actual numbers today, and then later I will come back and show you how to change them to make a more adaptive dungeon. That'll be more fun for players. So if it is not random, then n is going to equal name, p is going to equal power, and h is going to equal health. So let's go down here, and then, yeah, like I said, we'll do random in a bit. We're just going to get basic combat. We need to do a couple things. The first is going to be while statement, and this is going to be while health is greater than 0, and the rest of our code's going to probably go in here for the most part. So we're going to write our console.write line, and we're just going to copy and paste this a couple times. Oops. Well, I guess that'll work. Probably, that should be, well, we'll need a 5th line, but we're just going to make a little text-based GUI here. So, yeah, that's kind of neat. Okay. And, of course, these are all customizable. You can make this however you'd like. We're going to have a attack. And then defense, or defend. Let's see, let's get that kind of somewhat centralized. We got 1 there and 1 on the front, so that looks good. Then we're also going to want a run. So this is like go back to the store, but this we don't have the store yet. And then potion, or we're just gonna call it heal. And trying to make these all lined up. So I think, you know, that looks all right. This could maybe go back 1. I don't know. It looks all right. And then down here, we're going to want to have potions as a variable, or potions. Add a space. You're going to want a space here. Plus symbol. Program. Current player. Potions. Or potion. And then another plus. A couple spaces. And we're probably going to want a couple spaces on this one as well. Maybe 1. And we'll do 2 here. Then we're going to want health. Same setup. Program dot current player dot health. And that is all good there. Now we have to prompt. And that is going to be console.read line, and we're just going to store this to a string called temp. That's kind of what I call any temporary variable that I make, although you will probably need more than one temp in the future. So you might want to call it temp, and then temp1, or temp A, temp B, etc. Doesn't really matter what you call it. You could call it, in fact, I guess we'll just do this, input. Doesn't matter. Then we're going to do if input dot oh yeah, we have to do capitalization. I think the method's called lower. Just give me a second here to go find that. Okay, yeah, there we go. To lower. So input dot to lower. And if input dot to lower is equal to A, or input dot to lower is equal to attack, and this is case sensitive, I believe. Then we are going to want to, and this is just a note, attack. Else if, and in fact I'm just going to copy and paste this. So we're just going to type else space Control V. And we're going to need 4 of these methods, 1 for each. So we'll have attack, defend, run, and heal. So then we have to change the variables according to that as well. Defend, this is run, and R. I guess the little shortcuts are unnecessary, but I find them a little easier than having to type out attack every single time. But it is there if you want. So yeah, then we have our combat, and we have to do a couple things here. So defend is going to significantly reduce the amount of damage you take, but also you're going to output a very low damage. Attack is going to output a high, but you're not going to defend at all, so you'll take full damage from the opponent. Run is going to attempt to escape, and heal depends if you have a potion, and it's a 50-50 chance if you get hit or not. And we'll just program that in all now. So attack, it's always fun to add a little text with this, so we're gonna say something like console.write line. What sounds good? And you have to make it kind of generic, because, well, you have to make the enemies generic, because not every enemy is going to have a giant battle axe, so it wouldn't make sense for a slug to have a battle axe. So you can't say they bring their massive battle axe down and split thyself in half. But you could just say they do a fearful attack or something like that. Or you could maybe make all your enemies able to carry a battle axe or something like that. You guys figure it out. The text is all customizable. I'm going to have with haste you surge forth, slicing and dicing the you surge forth your sword dancing in your hands, or flying. Flying sounds better. And then as you pass comma, the space, plus n plus 2 quotation marks and then another space. So the, I don't know, the zombie or the human rogue swipes, or I guess strikes you back. Strikes you as you pass. There we go. And then console.write another line, and it will be, this pertains to damage, which we're going to calculate here in just a second. So you lose plus damage, and we're going to create the damage variable in a second, plus another quotation, you lose so-and-so health, and you deal plus attack. So this is kind of messed up how I do it. Attack is the damage that I'm dealing, and damage is the damage that I'm taking, or my player. So attack, and you lose so-and-so health and deal so-and-so damage. So I guess that's kind of confusing. In between these two lines, we're going to create a int called damage, and that is going to be equal to this is attack, so power of the enemy minus your player.current. Oh, did I not make that? Oh, it's not player, it's program. There we go. Program.current player armor value. So it's going to just minus or subtract your armor value from the amount of damage. So if you have a higher armor value, you won't be able to be damaged as easily. And then same for attack, just kind of vice versa, is going to equal, I don't think we have this variable yet. We're going to need to go back into player, create a public int called weapon value. That's just going to be like the power of your weapon. It's going to start off at 1. So attack is going to equal weapon value, or program dot current player dot weapon value plus, or actually let's make this a little more random. We're going to go up to the top, very top here, and we're going to do random rand equals new random. So this is a new instance of the random class. We're going to do attack is going to equal between, or rand dot, did I type random out? No, that should be rand dot next. This is like a random range between two integers. So we're going to do between 1 and attack value. Program dot current player dot attack value, or weapon value, sorry. And then we're gonna add, because at the beginning of the game this is too low, but at the end of the game the amount that we're gonna add is not going to be significant. So we're gonna add a value which is gonna be rand dot next. And oh, I needed to make this static. There we go. That fixed our errors. So make random static. Doesn't need to be public because no other class should need it at the moment. We'll just call it in that class. So random next in between 1 and 4. So that would, the 4 is not included. So 4 is excluded, the upper range is excluded, and the lower range is inclusive. So see down here the exclusive upper bound. So that would give us a number between 1 and 3. And that's kind of how much damage that we want to add to our weapon value here. And actually, this should be, now that we have that, this to add at least 1 damage, this should be 0. So I think, does that make sense? Hopefully. We're going to deal the damage to, or it'll display how much damage, and then program dot current player armor or health is going to minus equal, which is just subtract from the value that the current player health already is, and that's just going to be damage. And then we're just going to copy that over. Or no, we don't need to copy that over because we're dealing with the other character. Sorry. Health or H, not health, just H, minus equals attack, and then that is it. So then what'll happen is it'll go down, and we're gonna want to actually, yeah, we're gonna want to add a, at the very bottom here, right before the while loop ends, we're gonna want to add console dot read key, so it'll wait for a key press before you can add another action. So yeah, attack should be done. Defend is very similar to attack, so in fact we're going to copy and paste the code and then fix it or modify it a little bit. And I see I added attack on there. So what sounds good? As the blank, or as the space and then the name, readies, or no, prepares to strike, comma, you ready your sword in a defensive stance. Sure. And then, yeah, we'll do the same whole deal here. Everything should be the same, except for the damage taken. We're actually going to divide by 4. So the power of the opponent is going to be divided by 4, and that's good. Now, I guess the one thing that I forgot to do up here is, if you look at the code here, the player, if you subtract a negative, so let's say the damage is not negated by the armor value, we just have to make sure that the damage doesn't go lower than 0, so you can't deal negative damage, if that makes sense. So if the armor value is too high, we don't want it dealing negative damage and actually healing the player or the enemy. So we're going to have to add a little check-in or check for that. So if damage is less than or equal to, or no, just less than 0, damage equals 0. That's pretty easy. And then we have to do the same for attack. If attack is less than, actually, if attack doesn't matter because of this code up here, so we don't need to do attack. So just on damage, same with down here. If damage is less than 0, damage is just equal to 0. And yeah, so damage is divided by 4, and then our damage, instead of going to be a weapon value, current weapon value, plus this, it's going to be the current weapon value actually divided by 2, just so that you're doing a significantly lower amount of damage, and then the whole same attack and player damage doohickey down here. Run is going to be a little different, finally, because you are not going to have, if you try to run, you're not going to have a chance to fight back. and running is a 50-50 shot. So we're going to do console.writeLine, and we're going to write the line of, let's see. Well, actually, we want to make a, we're going to call random, or rand.next. We need an integer between 1 and, or 0 and 2, because 2 is uninclusive. And then, actually, we're going to put that in the if statement. So if a random number is generated, and if it's equal to 0, just picking one, then they're going to fail the task. Otherwise, they're going to be able to escape. So console.writeLine, as you sprint away from the plus, and then the name, that whole deal again, space, sprint away from the whatever it is, it strike catches you in the back, sending you sprawling onto the ground. There we go, that sounds good. Then we'll do the whole damage calculation again, but this is just for the enemy this time. So, I'm feeling I did something wrong up in the defend. Did I? Oh no, I did attack correctly. Did I do defend? No, I'm going insane. Don't worry. We're going to write another line, and this is just going to be the same as the damage one, almost. You lose. Oh yeah, plus damage, space health, and are unable to escape. Okay, yeah, there we go. Okay, and then damage, int damage is going to equal our, just the same as all the other damage calculations, it's going to equal power minus program.currentPlayer.armor value. And then, of course, we have to do the check. If damage is less than 0, damage is going to equal 0. Don't want any negative damages or damage, because that'd be kind of silly, though. You get healed because of your armor or something. That actually that would be an interesting purchase from the store, an upgrade that allowed you to do stuff like that. Let's see. Let's continue down to the bottom. This is going to be if you do escape. So let's do console.writeLine. You use your crazy ninja moves to evade the plus name, of course. Evade the whatever you're fighting, and you successfully escape. An exclamation mark, and that's all good. We're going to want to, actually back on the top one, this one's a little special. We're going to want to do the get key console dot, or not get key, read key on both of these instead of at the end of the entire thing, because this one will, the bottom will send us to the town, so we won't trigger the other line, so it's kind of pointless to, you're writing it 2 times either way. Read key and then we're just gonna leave a little note. Go to store. Sure, that works. Finally, we have heal. Heal is going to be a another 50-50 action, so we're just going to do random or rand.next between a 0 and 2, and that needs to be in an if statement, and if it equals 0 we fail the action, and else we succeed at the action. So I guess we'll start with the fail, and or no, this one isn't random. What am I thinking? The damage is random, but the if program.currentPlayer.potion, if your potions are less than, or if they're less than or equal to 0, you can't have less than. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. If they're equal to 0, that's the only thing it can be. Console.write line as you feel around. Well, what sounds good? Like, I'm trying to make this coding and informational, but I'm also trying to do a little bit of like good story as well. So, I don't know. Console write line as you desperately grasp for a potion in your bag, all that you can find are, or all that you feel are empty glass flasks. Sure. And then, so if you don't have any potions, you're going to be just punished by taking damage anyways. So it's not a chance. The other one's a chance for drinking a potion. You get a 50-50 shot at not getting damaged. But if you're out of potions, you get damaged either way. So pay attention. And this is something you guys can change, of course. So blah 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 blah. The space and then plus name plus rears. Well, what sounds good? I guess we'll just do strikes. Or hits. We're just doing strikes. You with a mighty blow, and you lose plus damage plus space health. And then of course we have to do the damage calculation. Integer damage is going to equal same as normal, power minus program.currentPlayer.armor value with the little check if damage is less than 0. We don't need parentheses or curly brackets for that one. Damage equals 0. Oh, and only one equals there. Okay, so yeah, you messed up if you did this. And then I guess at the end of this method, we're going to do get or console.read key. I don't know why I keep saying get key. I think that was a Unity function. This is not using Unity. We're gonna do another console for the other one, or if you are successful here, write line, and it's going to write you reach into your bag and I think my mic just cut off there. And success. Or you reach out your bag and pull out a glowing purple flask. You take a drink and feel. You just take a drink. There we go. Take a long drink. Then console dot write line. You gain. We're gonna make another variable, I guess. So we're just gonna call it health plus. Actually typing out health. So we do have to do. This is gonna seem really funny at the time, but we're health or int health is just gonna equal 5 at the moment. That's all it is. Cannot be declared. Oh dear. Can't be declared in the scope because the name is used. Oh, okay. So it's not going to be health. It's going to be potion V, or potion value. Potion V equals 5. And that is actually going to be something that changes. You're going to be able to upgrade your potions later. So, yeah, let's continue. I just lost my train of thought here. Okay. Yeah, so then we actually have to gain the health, which we'll do down here. We'll do program dot current player dot health plus equals our potion value. Okay, and that was a ton of code there, and this is a very long video. I think we are almost ready to test this out. Then we're going to get into some more advanced or less, framework stuff next episode, hopefully. There'll be a little framework, but hopefully we'll get starting on more encounters. So, I think this is all good. Back up in our first encounter, we're going to have to call combat. And it's going to be false for random, because we're not having random. The string for the name is going to be called human rogue. Power is going to be 1. Toughness or health is going to be 2. Or we'll do 4. Sure, that's better. And back in program, we have to call. We're actually going to reference encounter. We're just gonna public static encounter counters. Actually, we don't need to reference that. I don't believe. We're just gonna do encounters dot first encounter, and that should be good. I think this all works. We're gonna go test everything out here. The only thing that shouldn't be in place is running yet, but that's because we don't have the store. So I'll be back when. So you guys just press play. I'll be back. Okay, of course I tested in a little more that we need to do. So, couple fixes, or actually, nothing seemed broken. I didn't test the whole combat thing though. So we are going to want 2 lines. One is going to be just name, and then the other console dot write line we want to be power plus a / plus health. So that actually displays some stuff, and then on top of that, we want to probably do console dot clear. So yeah, that's gonna clean everything up, I'm pretty sure. So let's go give it a try. Okay, take 1. So name Ender. You awake in a cold, stone, dark room. You feel dazed and are having trouble remembering anything about your past. You know your name is Ender. Enter. Okay, you grope around the darkness until you find a door handle. You feel some resistance as you turn the handle, but the rusty lock breaks with little effort. You see your captor standing with his back to you outside the door. You throw open the door and grab a rusty metal sword while charging toward your captor. He turns. Human rogue. 1 power and 4 health. So we have attack. With haste you surge forth, your sword flying in your hands. As you pass, the human rogue strikes... Oh, well, that doesn't make any sense. And I see I forgot a space. So I lose 1 health and I deal 2 damage. Enter. So his health's down. We're going to try defending. As the human rogue prepares to strike, you ready your sword in a defensive stance. You lose 0 health and deal deal 0 damage. And then we're going to heal. You reach into your bag and pull out a glowing purple flask. You take a long drink. You gain 5 health. And then enter. I didn't put in the attack function for that, so we're going to go fix these errors and put in that function right now. Okay, so we have to figure out why it was in attack and defend. We forgot to put space there, or I forgot. You guys probably caught that. Space between health and that one parenthesis, or not parenthesis, quotation mark. What was the other issue? We needed... Oh yeah, we didn't have the one attack function working. So, like, when you get a flask, you're supposed to take damage. So you're going to gain the health first, and then you take damage. So then, we're going to write another line out called, as you were occupied the, plus name, space, as you were occupied the, I don't know, human rogue advanced. Sure. Advanced and struck. We'll do int damage is equal to, this one is going to be half of the power, because you did just gain health. So I guess we'll stick that in parentheses for organizational purposes. Minus, so power divided by 2 minus armor. Our program.currentPlayer.armor value. And then we have to round or make sure that that is not less than 0. And if it is, damage is going to equal 0. Then we're going to write out another write line, and we're going to say you lost, or you lose blank, or space, plus damage, plus space health. So, not good for you, I guess. Yeah, I think it's going to be all we got for today. I'm going to go run this quickly. Oh, last thing. Random. Actually, you know what? We're going to do that next episode. This episode's gone on pretty long. We're going to go test this and make sure all the little kinks are figured out, and then I'm going to wrap up the video. Okay. We forgot another thing with the... I'm just realizing this as I start this up. We forgot to do the when kill, but we'll start off there next episode of this series. So we know our name's Ender, blah 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 blah, captor. We're gonna attack. That's fixed. We dealt damage. We're gonna heal. Advanced and struck, and I guess he did. I guess that makes sense. I gained 5 health. Enter, so we're up to 14. We're going to defend, make sure that worked. Yep, and then attack. I lose a health, and I deal. Then the program closes, and my video stops recording, so sorry about that. we will be back next time to start off with our random and also adding it so that when we kill the opponent, we actually get gold, and looping this and starting to add more encounters, and a random name system, and a bunch of other stuff. So we're going to be probably just polishing next episode and maybe adding some encounters. Then we're going to probably move on to a bunch of like bulk encounters, and then we're going to move on to the store, is kind of what I'm thinking at the moment. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I know this video is a little long. I will be back, hopefully for a lot shorter videos. I'm thinking they're only going to be 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes tops for videos in the future, but this framework is kind of important that we needed to get in. The combat is probably the most bulk coding that we're going to be doing as of what I have planned. Once we get into some of the more advanced stuff later on, maybe a little more. We'll see. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and Ender out.